Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for the 2025 vacuum leaf update. We'll give it a minute, but we just wanted to start the meeting since y'all had already joined us, so thank y'all. We'll start right at 6:30. All right, I just got a prompt that we hit 6:30. So good evening again. Thank y'all for joining us. My name is Eric Forbes. I'm Deputy Director for the Department of Public Works and Environmental Services, and I lead our solid waste management program. So tonight we're going to be talking about our vacuum leaf program for this fall. So we'll talk a little bit about the history from last year, what we learned, and then the improvements that we're making this year. With me on the call tonight, we have Chris Harrington, Director of Public Works and Environmental Services for the Fairfax County, Katie Torgerson, who's one of our outreach professionals, and Mary Baldo, who's also on the call, and a couple other team members from Newington Operations who actually conduct the vacuum leaf service for the community. Before we get going into the slide deck, I hope everybody can see our screen here. We just want to talk through how the meeting will go tonight. The presentation will occur, and once it's concluded, we'll have time for questions. So we ask that you use the raise your hand icon on your Teams page there. And then that way we can call on you to turn on your mic, and then you can ask your question, and then we'll be able to provide an answer. So this meeting will run through 8 p.m. If we need all that time, maybe we won't. It depends on how many questions we have. Our presentation won't take too much time. So with that, I'd like to just start with our vacuum leaf season last year. Didn't go as well as we had planned and that we were hoping for. So we started service the beginning of November. And we told a lot of folks to put their leaves out early on, but we didn't make it to everybody in a timely manner. And for some customers, it was even into December, close to the holidays. We can't have that happen again, and we know that. So we've looked at the program, and we have changes that we'll talk about tonight. But we're going to talk a little bit about what happened last season. So we had a new collection model. Where we were spreading out our crews in 4 areas at once. We had high leaf volumes early on round 1, very dry conditions. And then we had weather impacts towards the back end of the collection. And really at the beginning, we had communication challenges that set us off with some expectations that we couldn't meet. So we overpromised and underdelivered, and we definitely have learned from that. To go a little further into it, when I say we spread our crews out and service 4 areas at once, we put our resources across 4 different areas. You know, we have 10 vacuum leaf areas in the community, and it just spread us too thin, especially with the higher leaf drop volumes that we had early on in round 1. And it bogged down our crews, and we didn't have enough power in terms of our resources to collect it efficiently. So that really hampered our ability to move through areas and complete them. The drier leaves actually means more truckloads that we have to haul. So if you envision dry leaves being light and fluffy, they fill up a truck rather quickly. When they're wet, they actually compact, and they actually can fill more in a truck, believe it or not. And so those additional truck trips also impacted our flow through the neighborhoods early on. Now, once the weather started to turn and we were well into collection across our areas, we had the snowfall events and very cold temperatures in January that really stop collection. So once the snow hits and ice forms in the leaf piles, if we try to collect that before the thaw, it will really damage our equipment, and prolong our collection even further. Because now we're talking about repairing machines that we need to operate to do the collection. And ultimately, the big one, I think, for me, and I think for a lot of our customers, was that early expectation that we'd be in all these areas and able to collect early in November, where we didn't get to everyone in a timely manner. So we've learned quite a bit from last year, and our team, we went through point by point on the experience from our vendor relationship where we contract out our resources, and we were using 25 contracted trucks connected to tag units, what we call vacuum tags, which is on the bottom right corner here. It's a tag along trailer where we suck the leaves or vacuum them from in front of your properties and put them back into the trucks. So we were using 25 last year. This year we've asked the vendor to provide an additional 15. So we're ramping up the ability there in terms of how many trucks are servicing the areas, but we're also increasing the number of tag units. So for each truck that comes in, or each tag, I should say, 3 to 4 trucks are able to be used by that tag. So we're adding 2 additional vacuum leaf units, and we're spreading out the other trucks amongst the other vacuum leaf. So we'll have 10 total vacuum leaf tag-along units and associated trucks that will be helping us this year. We've also added 5 county automated trucks. And those you've probably seen if you've been a customer for a while in your neighborhoods before. We actually bought 2 new ones over the last year. And so we'll have brand new pieces of equipment. We're reinvesting in the program, as we know it's going to continue in the future. So those 5 county automated trucks is new for this year. We did not have them at the onslaught site of our collection last year. And one of the big, I think, aside from the adding the additional resources and personnel to help with the collection, we're going to institute a quality control procedure where we'll be taking photos before and after, and that'll help us capture our collection. But we'll also see how our contractor's doing. We'll also be able to look ahead and provide better communication in our schedule for our customers, for all of you. So that QA/QC procedure, or quality assurance and quality control procedure, will consist of us conducting a pre-service survey. So we'll be looking at the set out volumes, and depending on how far ahead we are, we'll also look what's in the yards, right? Because we know that some of our customers will put the leaves out, knowing that we'll be there in the forthcoming days. And that's going to really help us capture our ability in terms of planning ahead and being able to forecast when we'll be in the next neighborhoods. We'll also only be doing 2 areas at once. So now that we have these additional resources focused on 2 areas instead of 4 like last year, we're confident that we'll be able to move through the neighborhoods more quickly and provide a more complete service. We also be ensuring that we've done an inspection before moving on to the next one. So we're going to complete the areas that we're in before we move on with a final QA/QC inspection. So one of the big operational improvements I'm excited about, and this was actually part of the program pre-pandemic, is we've partnered with Fairfax County Park Authority, so a big thank you to them, for using Pine Ridge Park for what I consider a leaf loadout or a leaf staging site. So last year and the year before that, we had to transfer all the leaves that were collected in our service areas, which you can see on the map there, down to either I-95 landfill complex, where a majority went, or to the I-66 transfer station. And with Northern Virginia traffic and those long distances, sometimes it would take the vendor, the contracted trucks we were using, 3 hours for them to get back from dumping. And that's just takes too much time. So now with Pine Ridge Park, we'll actually be able to get back in the collection more quickly because the transport of the leaves from the neighborhood to our drop-off site will be much faster. So this will be a huge improvement over last year. Now we will be transferring from Pine Ridge, but that's okay. that's getting them out of your neighborhoods and at that site for transfer. So we're really excited about this as one of our key operational improvements for this year. Now, communications. I'd mentioned communications earlier and our challenges last year. I'm pretty confident for our communication plan this year. We're doing a lot more, I think, and we changed mid-season last year. Hopefully, some of y'all noticed that we started with Nextdoor and sharing our messages um, on Nextdoor for vacuum leak progress, and we're going to continue to do that this year. So we partnered with OPA, the county's Office of Public Affairs, to utilize Nextdoor with our messaging. We've also improved our dashboard, which isn't posted yet, but will be with our schedule before the season starts. And we're going what I would consider more granular. And I have the next slide will I'll explain a little bit further. But we're trying to provide better information for our customers so that y'all can plan on when leaves should be set out. Um, you'll notice the QR code. So before I go any further, if you haven't signed up for our emails and email updates, our team does a great job at sending out information, but we need you to sign up for the email so we can communicate that information to you. So if you use your smartphone and you scan that QR code or visit the website right there underneath it, you can sign up for our email updates if you haven't done so. If you're not looking for that, you could always just come to our webpage. I spoke to a gentleman just recently, and he said, "I'm not signed up, but I go to your webpage often, and I'm able to find the information I need on what's going on." So the webpage has a lot of information. There's actually information about our plan for this year coming up, and the after action report information that we went over earlier from last year, already on the webpage. We'll be sending our brochure out in October. So in about a month, be on the lookout for our annual brochure with information. Not everybody consumes information digitally, so we're still doing our brochure. We'll also be putting out the yard signs throughout the neighborhoods as we did last year. One of the cool operational things our team is doing for your operation and actually setting out your leaves is we're putting out some videos with information about the program. Consider them like little YouTube snippets, something you might see on social media, and that will be available as well for everybody to review how the program works. So with our service basics and schedule, just want to reiterate, we're doing no more than 2 areas at once. And that's definitely a lesson we learned last year. So we'll have our additional resources with our resources we had from previous year in those 2 areas until they're fully serviced. We'll be doing a daily webpage schedule update. And with our QA/QC program that we're instituting, we should be pretty accurate and be able to provide really good information for our customers as we progress through our areas. If you notice on the map, we've actually taken the 1 through 10 areas, so we have 10 service areas in the community, and we've broken them down into smaller sections. So you'll see here area 3 represented, and there's 3A, 3B, and 3C. So right now, if you go to our county webpage and you visit the vacuum leaf map, you can float over your area and find which sub area you're in already. So we already have that functionality in the map itself. Now, this will also play into our dashboard and information there. And what we're hopeful is that it'll help people in areas understand when we say something's complete. They'll be able to see, okay, they're finished with 3A. I know they're coming to 3B next, and then you'll be able to see that, and we'll be able to provide that information. So we're getting a little more granular on how we provide updates on our schedule. For setting out leaves. So we thought we'd take the opportunity with this info session to ask y'all to help us with good collection practice and good set out practice. So obviously rake or blow your leaves to the curb. Try to keep them no more than 4 feet from the street edge. We want to make sure that we can access them, but then there's still a drive lane for vehicles that utilizes the roadway. Debris, branches, rocks, those types of things are problematic for our equipment. And similar to ice, if we get rocks or branches in there, it can damage our vacuum leaf equipment, and that could put that equipment out of commission, causing delays with our collection program. So please try and make sure that the leaves are just leaves. When you're parking vehicles, obviously car engines are hot. And so parking a hot engine over a pile of dry leaves is not necessarily the best thing to do for fire safety. Our storm drains and fire hydrants are also part of the consideration when we're setting out leaves. So try not to block any storm drains or fire hydrants or mailboxes for that matter. We want to make sure that we can access those hydrants if we ever need them, or for our mail service delivery providers, our postal workers, that they can safely access the mailboxes as well. So this is on my last slide for us tonight, and then we can open up for Q&A. But we just wanted to share if there are issues or if you like additional information, you can call us. Here's our number right here. You can email us, or you can go to our online feedback forum, which is available on our website. Again, the website has a lot of great information, and I think a lot of questions can get answered there. But if you have anything you want to talk to us about, feel free to give us a call, send us an email, or send us a note on that feedback form. And with that, that is my final slide. So we can stop presenting, and then we will open it up for our first questions of the evening. So please raise your hand. Use that little raise hand icon. Oh, David. Oh, we got some hands going up. Great, thank you. All right. Let's start with David.
David, you should be able to unmute yourself now. And if you click on the mic icon, it's at the top right of your screen. It should toggle on and off. And
there. Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Yes,
How
we
about
can.
that? I don't like Microsoft. Have you communicated with landscaping companies about proper leaf presentation etiquette? In our neighborhood, they're the ones that do 98% of the leaf clearance. They consider it their holy mission to remove every leaf from a property they service and put them into the street, no matter how far into the street that reaches. And it can get tight on some of our streets.
It's a great question, and honestly, we do not communicate directly. Now, the information's available, and we'll make sure we post it. If you had contact, I'm not sure how it functions there. A lot of people privately contract, so they're doing it as an individual. So we'd ask that you share the information with your provider that's providing your landscape services. If it's done through your HOA, maybe that's something you could just send us a note, and we can work with your HOA to share that information. That's a great idea. Thank you, David.
All right. Becky, you should be able to turn your mic on and off now. I will leave that on, and if you figure out how to, if you're able to turn your mic on, you can speak next, but I'll turn on Richard while we're waiting. Okay, Richard, you should be able to, yes.
Yes, hi. Good evening.
Good evening.
I live in the Park Lawn area of Mason District, and we really had a lot of problems with leaf collection last year. I'm not going to even mention it because you already know about it. So two things. One is when you say that you're trying to make the communications more granular. I have a landscape guy that comes in, once or twice a month. Once every 2 weeks or every week, depending on the weather. And it's really hard to schedule him when I have no idea when you guys are going to show up. What is the window of time that I can anticipate? If you don't know yet, I get it. What is the window of time that we can anticipate that the truck is going to show up?
So we'd ask Richard, great question, and I can totally understand the challenge of trying to schedule your vendor or providing the landscape services to you in alignment with our collection. So we're trying to give everybody a 2-week look ahead. So we'll try and give you the 2-week notice. So if you don't have it scheduled and you get that information and you take a look at our website, that's what we'd ask you to do, is track with us on our website. So that way you can see the progression, and you might be able to then forecast, hey, they're going to be here in 2 weeks. Please come out and do the leaves in a week. That's probably the best way to do it. Again, you'll see our trucks as well operating as they're going through. So that might be another tail sign.
Well, the problem with that is I can't call the guy and say, you got to be here in 2 hours.
No, we
And
want to give you at least our goal is 2 weeks notice.
right. So and I've used your website a lot. So will it be, I mean, will there be a dates when, say, I think I think section 7, but I'm not sure. Will it give me dates that I can anticipate?
Yes, that's exactly right. And we're trying to give it at least 2 weeks notice. So right now we're sharing our screen. With last year's information, we haven't published this year's schedule yet. So it'll be a similar format. So if you want to, do you mind repeating your street again? We can look it up right now. Was it Autumn Drive?
It's Braddock Road in Mason District.
Okay, Braddock Road. So I think we got an extra A in there. It's a great question. This is hopefully will illustrate. So you're correct, area 7. So now we'll also have, when I say a little more granular, it'll be 7A, 7B, 7C, for instance. And if you look at your map that we have, our map that we have online, you'll be able to figure out exactly what section you are if it's a long street. Because that was one of the challenges with the really long streets. It wasn't providing enough information to
Right.
show, like, hey,
I didn't see that on the spreadsheet. Will it be the 7A and B? Will that be only on the map?
well, let's see right here. We're going to look it up for you and see if we can find not necessarily your house, but your street, and we'll see if you're in 7A, B, C, or D right here.
I would be in C.
There you go. So ideally, what we'll see, which we don't have to show you, is 7C and then a 2-week look ahead. So you'll be able to say, okay, they're here, and they're in 7. They've progressed through. And then you'll be able to see that look ahead on that table that we were just showing. That's our actual schedule.
So that 7C will show up on the table too, because I didn't see it when you put
Yes,
it up.
that was last year's information. Unfortunately, we don't
Okay,
have
gotcha.
this season's yet, and so I know it's a little confusing there. But that's our goal, right? And we're going to need feedback because we're trying to make it better for everybody. So here you'll be able to see that the different breakdown. With a little bit better information for those specific areas, because 7 is a big area.
Yeah.
And it's definitely challenging. Like if you could think some of our main thoroughfares, they're really long roads, and sometimes it takes us more than a week, 2 weeks to even collect them because they're so long. So now this will help us break it down into sections that can help provide a more accurate time frame for when we'll be there.
What's challenging here, this will bring me to my next topic, is that we get school buses queuing up from the elementary school, and that blocks your trucks, and then we don't see them ever again. I have had to call the last 2 weeks about recyclables not being picked up, and this is not the first time that, I mean, I've had to call many times. Mary knows me well, so my concern is, okay, you're going to be picking up the leaves. Are we going to be sitting with garbage and recyclables on our street for a week? So that is something I don't know if you can coordinate with the school to make sure that, because it's even an issue with picking up the recyclables. The school buses and the traffic get in the way of your trucks being able to do pickups.
So that's a great question. I can't say we've coordinated with schools or their schedule and when they're doing our collection and their collection. That does seem like a challenge.
No,
We can talk.
not their yard, not their collections. It's their school buses that queue up and block your trucks from moving through Braddock Road.
Okay, so they're actually queuing on the road, not picking up kids. They're just waiting for.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
okay. Yeah, we'll have to look into that. I don't have a great answer for you, Mark, but it's good insight. I mean, you can take a look at it. I'm not sure if the schools have another alternative for where they can queue up, but we can talk to our teams too to see if they can
Yeah,
safely maneuver around.
even the parents queue up. So it's if you could schedule it after school starts and before school ends, you'd have a lot more success on Braddock Road. And then thirdly, I did want to say that last collection is almost a waste for us anyway. I have never been able to use that last collection. It's too late.
Thank you, Mark. We just want to make sure we
Richard.
get everybody
Richard.
collected. Oh, sorry, Richard. Pardon me. I was reading somebody else's name, Richard. Thank you. Too many hands going up. Thank you for that. We want to make sure that we do the collection. We did talk about only going to two rounds of collection, but at this point, we're still going to provide the three.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mark, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Good evening.
I'm Mark Crawford. I live in Hillbrook, Tall Oaks in Annandale. Your use of QR codes is reckless and irresponsible. Whoever figured this out doesn't go through our neighborhood. Windy roads with school buses behind you, no sidewalks, no curbs in many cases. And so for somebody to use a current QR code, they'd have to stop their car, pull off, which they can't do, and go take a picture. They can't do it while they're driving their car. You wouldn't prescribe them to do that, would you? It's a matter of practice. You think that's a safe thing? Anyway, keep it simple, stupid. And that is, go back to just putting a legible date on a piece of paper that people can see and understand as they drive by. What you do now is very unsafe.
All right.
Too
Thank you
much
for.
technology.
Yes, thank you, sir, for the comments there. I think, the safety risks are there for any type of date or QR code, and that's why we're having this forum. We definitely want to get the message out on how to get to our information. Signing up for the email is helpful, but our website, where the QR code would take you, is very easy to find as well. So we're optimistic that that QR code visit would only be really for people new to the program. For our customers that are familiar with how to get to our website, that information, that's where we're going to house the information. But thank you for the comments. And yes, we definitely want people to approach those QR codes safely. We can take a look.
In some cases, it's not possible.
Yes, sir.
So the other thing is, QR codes aren't the safest little objects in the world. They collect information.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your question or your sharing about QR codes, sir. Did you have any other questions, Mark? Oh, no.
No, I understand the check.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Oh, Katie, I think you're muted.
Whitney, you should be able to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Hi, hi.
Good
Thank
evening.
you. Good evening. I'm so Zoom centered that it's really like a trick, but I got there. So a couple of questions. First, just in response to what the guy before, I just, I get it. And especially if some people are driving by and it's a busy road, maybe there's a way to put on the side street too or something, or on both sides of the. Anyway, that's just as a civic association leader that I think like that. I'm fine with how it is in my neighborhood, and I really appreciate the QR code because I can get it while I'm walking the dog. So thank you for that. Okay, so two questions real quick. One is, I know that I've always been curious about the storm drains and how, like, putting the leaves in the storm drain, if we're having all these weirder water, like events, I just want to make sure I can tell the people in my civic association or in my little nonprofit about, how sort of like hygiene, storm drain hygiene. So I'll call it that. Sorry, that's my alarm. The other thing is Ridgeview Park or Pine Ridge Park. I don't think it's in my watershed. It's just outside. But I am curious, like, what is the staging area there? What does that look like? Yeah. So is that something that affects people who go to the park or any of the? Yeah. Okay. So that's my questions.
Okay, so thank you, thank you for joining us on Teams. Sorry about the change from Zoom. But for Pine Ridge Park, I guess we'll go into that one, and we'll talk a little about the storm drains as well. But for Pine Ridge, so that is a place we historically had leaf loadout or leaf transfer operations. We had stopped it. It is a gravel parking area, so it's a good use from the parks. There will be users. There's a couple of new turf fields. So that we're working with the parks, with Fairfax County Park Authority, to make sure we delineate our area so that we're not impacting use of those fields. It was one of their concerns. So we shouldn't have any impacts to the users of the park, and we're definitely partnering with the Park Authority, who is allowing us access to make sure that there's still usable space. Now, for the storm drains, believe it or not, my previous career in the county, I was an ecologist with stormwater management. So with Katie, we have a lot of stormwater people on the call. Our director also has a love for stormwater. And so the stormwater infrastructure, those drains are critical. And so maybe for the hygiene conversation you have, it's really if we get one of those freak storms in November, say we put the leaves right there at the curb and they block the throat of the entry of where the water goes down into that inlet. It could cause problems with flooding in the street. And then it just makes the situation a lot worse. So if we keep them open, water hopefully can flow in there without a lot of issue. And so that's really the hygiene part of it. And also,
a quick question to follow up. Sorry to interrupt.
Sure,
so
jump in.
That makes sense, especially around the drains themselves. I've just always been curious, is the water in a big rain or snow melt or whatever event, when it's like further up the street and it's just the gutter, is that also supposed to be clear? Are the leaves supposed to be cleared and in the actual street, or does the water manage to get through all those leaves when they're in the gutter?
Great question. So there's a lot of factors there that might impact that, but for the most part, the water should go through them. It's just that immediate clogging issue that we're trying to avoid, and keeping that opening open, honestly. So the water should still flow through. If anything, the leaves will provide a little bit of filtration, if you could think of it like that. But that should be okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Whitney.
Okay. Let's see here. We have VA sample should be able to unmute themselves.
Oh, you had it.
Oh boy,
There you
I'll tell
go.
you,
Good
Microsoft,
evening.
God, you gotta love them. Make everything much more difficult. So it's Al Sample. Eric, you and I have been in correspondence for a while now.
Yes, sir. Nice to hear from you.
Yeah, well, first, just want to say thanks for doing such a thorough after-action analysis. I think you've done a good job of listening to people. So I've got a couple of questions. One, I want to echo the comment that Richard gave a few minutes ago. That third round is almost always, useless for us. If you want to do a third round, that's great. But my question is it reasonable to expect that we can get the 2 rounds somewhere between the last week of October and say the middle of December? Because, once you get past about the middle of December, you're almost guaranteed to have snow and ice. And, the problem we have in our neighborhood, the Hillbrook Tall Oaks neighborhood, is we don't have sidewalks here. We have these concrete storm channels that go along the entire frontage of everybody's property. And as much as we, trying to remind people, yeah, don't get your leaves more than 4 feet out in the road, they and their contractors just kind of look at us and say, well, what are we supposed to do? We've got this huge volume of leaves. You don't want it getting into the storm channels, right? Because then when it rains, all those leaves going to run right down and they plug up the drains, right? But you don't want to have it more than 4 feet out in the road. There's just not enough room between the drains and that 4 foot mark to put all the leaves. So, so we have this sort of compounded problem where anything, anything that goes past about the middle of December and gets wet, gets icy, whatever it is, and then, everything stops, those leaves sit there until March. And, we're right down the, Poe Middle School and the Montessori schools in our neighborhood. We have a lot of school buses. We have a lot of kids walking because, again, we don't have sidewalks. So, we've got the school buses, the regular traffic, the kids walking to school. They're all trying to navigate this 10-foot wide roadway for 3 months at a time, sometimes 4 months. So if you want to do the third round, that's great. But again, is it reasonable to expect that somewhere between the end of October and the middle of December that we could get both rounds done? Because I think that would, anything coming like first week, second week of December, that's going to clean up virtually everything that we have left to clean up.
So yes, that's actually a part of our internal discussions and what I would call an internal goal. We're hesitant to publicize that because of our challenges we've had, Dr. Sample, to be honest. That is kind of what we got into our situation last year where we had new management and we were like, we're going to get it done before the freeze. That's our goal. And we just weren't able to pull it off. So this year we've almost doubled our resources. We're like I said, getting more granular. We're doing a QA/QC process. We have a much quicker turnaround in terms of when we unload the leaves. We think those improvements this season will allow us to be a lot more efficient and collect faster. But I don't want to make a guarantee, but I think it's reasonable for us to have that as a goal, at least internally. But I would hesitate to say we're going to be done by the end of December with the 3 rounds. But for the first 2 rounds, I think it's a reasonable goal for us. So it's a great question and great feedback. And that challenge in your community is very similar to with all of our customers, even with different types of storm infrastructure. We have neighborhoods that have schools in them, they have pedestrians and cars, and so we definitely want to provide the service at a high level. So I'll even take it back a little bit to over from last season. We started planning and working on our plan for this season right away. We actually attended presentations and visited and talked to other communities that have different service models. And so there's other options out there. They're a lot more expensive in how the services are provided. But we've learned from our fact finding and information gathering to really see what other programs are doing to make sure the operations are efficient and operating correctly. And that's what we're emulating into our program this year. So I think it'll be much better, but I'm very optimistic. But great feedback.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
All right. Mark Whites should be able to unmute yourself. Perfect.
Yep. So
Good
unlike
evening.
some of the other callers, where they say round 3 is useless, round 1 is pretty much useless to me because it happens too early for me to get the leaves out. So I only get 2. But the bigger problem I have is that I have a drainage ditch in front of my property and no curb. So I put my leaves across the street and I'm at the bottom of a hill. So when it rains, all those leaves come down and get stuck in that ditch. And try as I might to get them out and over onto the other side of the road, sometimes I don't get it to happen by the time they come by. And unless I happen to catch them, They'll come by and pick up the leaves on the other side of the road, but not the ones that are in the ditch in front of my house. I don't know what to do to have the leaves in front of my house picked up.
That's a very interesting situation. I could visualize what you're explaining, Mark. I want to say this year we're equipping our teams in the field with additional ability to move leaves. That's one of the improvements. I didn't mention it, but we'll be utilizing backpack blowers, battery operated to keep the noise down. But we will be utilizing them to move leaves out of those areas. And Mark, I can't tell specifically with your address, but maybe that's something you can provide to us. And we can look as we're doing our QA/QC to make sure we're paying special attention. That would be something if you could communicate to our email or to our webpage where we have that feedback form. We can definitely look into it
Okay.
and highlight it so that our supervisors in the field are paying attention. Be happy to try and make that work more better this year.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for joining us.
Carol and Steve Brewer.
Yes, thank you very much. Hi, we're also in the Tall Oaks Hillbrook area, and we also had just the two pickups last year, as I recall, and it happened I think the year before as well, just because of the horrible weather again. And you know, it does seem that you know, I have a private service to help regularly. We have a backyard and tons of trees and tons of leaves, and you know, I put them in the street, expecting, you know, the county to come, and they didn't come, and the leaves got blown away again, and in the ditch and everything. So I guess I did hear you're still planning 3 pickups for this 2025, correct? I just want to confirm that if that's
Yes,
still the
yes,
plan.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
And the second thing is because we looked into it, we have a private service anyway. If we wanted to opt out, has that process been streamlined? I think before it's like you had to write and then get a form, then fill it out again, and you had to get. Is there a way to do this like electronically to opt out?
Still a process, and we're subject to following the state law for people opting in and out of our sanitary district. So yes, there's still a process there, Steve. But I would say we could, if you haven't reached out, we have a team that's now focused on it. We do have more leaf petitions going forward for removal of vacuum leaf service. So it's definitely something that I think is not as hard as it used to be. I'll say it like that. But I'm not quite sure the form you're referencing or the process that of when you made the inquiry. So we did make improvements, but I just don't know if it's improved or, you know, when you had reached out.
And if we wanted to opt out, is it too late for this year?
Yes. And that's part of
Okay.
the long process that I was mentioning. There's a board approval for people opting out of the service.
Okay, well, just real quick, in the future, when do you have to opt out? Just so that we know, you know, if we wanted to opt out for next year, what is the deadline? And then in terms of the schedule, when do you think the start dates are this year?
So it'll be early November. Well, let's do the schedule first. So early November. Usually it's that first Monday in early November. We'll start collection. And I don't
need
have a
one in
calendar.
October.
Yeah, October would help us because we had a ton of leaves in October.
But
We usually ask for we have the people do like 2 pickups in October. So, you know, by early November, I mean, everybody's just flooded with leaves, at least on our street.
Okay.
So, you know, mid October would be the best time to start. I don't know about, at least in our neighborhood, we have so many trees. There's huge oak trees and they have tons of leaves. So if possible, I know how, you know, everything's restrained, but if possible, if that could be changed to like mid-October, I think that would help a lot of people for the first, especially for the first pickup. And then, you know, and again, so the opt-out is by August, I guess, right? Okay, so, okay.
And in terms of the schedule that you're updating on your website, you know, in the past, it seems sometimes it doesn't get updated except to tell you when you're done with that neighborhood or that zone. are you actually going to keep it up to date on a real-time basis that we can plan? Because, you know, we end up having to have our contractor take the leads. So we pay him, we pay the county, you know, we double pay. So that's actually why we're interested in opting out, to not try to double pay. But if your schedule is real time and it can be used as a planning tool, maybe we wouldn't want to opt out, you know.
Thank you.
So, no, that great feedback. We can take a look at the early leaf fall. We did have early leaf fall the last 2 years, so we can talk with our operations team about that. It's definitely something we can consider. I don't think we've picked the start date. It's just traditionally been that first week in November, so that's something we'll definitely take a look at, Steve. So thank you for that suggestion. For the actual,
It's down now because of the rain and the cool weather.
yeah, well, and I live in the woods. If you can see, I got a bunch of trees in my backyard, and leaves are already falling. But I think it's more for beech leaf disease. I don't know. Hopefully, nobody has that going on. But it's something that's impacting our yard for sure, with early leaf fall already. But for Carol, your comment on the forecasted schedule, yes, that is our goal for this year, is to provide that 2-week look ahead, so that y'all can plan more effectively with your vendor, or, you know, if you're the ones moving it out to the front of the yard, so that y'all can get out there and do that as well. So that maybe this year you'll be able to make a better call on whether or not you want to opt out or not after this season.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Becky, I think you should be able to unmute yourself. If for some reason you cannot, you know, reach us with a question or comment now, you can always reach out through our webpage with either the feedback form or the email, or give us a call. All right, so let's see. Do Lisa Shankman. You should be able to unmute yourself. I will leave you on that ability to unmute, and Scott Durham, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Hello, this is Vivian Durham. And first of all, I want to say thank you for your services. We love the leaf collection. We understand it's difficult with the weather and, you know, how abundant the leaves are falling suddenly all together or not. My question is because we have a lot of leaves, so how much can we put onto our property along the road? Like a couple feet for you to pick up, that it doesn't go, you know, that we don't block too much road? Did you understand?
Yes, that's a great question. So your property's, you know, unique. And so what we had shown is we try to keep it like 4 feet from the road edge. So it's not out in the middle of the road. So you'll have to gauge what that looks like. And, you know, if you have a huge amount of leaves, then we definitely ask you to use all 3 rounds, if you can, so that you're setting out, you know, what's safe for in front of your property for round 1, then round 2, then round 3. Obviously, that's the perfect scenario. And, you know, I know people don't necessarily want to hold leaves back in their yard if they're already fallen. But if that's something, given the site constraints you have at your property, that might be something you might want to consider. You know, if you would like to ask more questions and maybe provide that your address, you could also reach out and we can talk over your property. We have people that'll be willing to have that and help you.
How much do you pick up onto the property?
Yes, we don't have a volume that we're calculating. It's what you set out and what our crews can access. We will collect.
All right, perfect. And what do you do with the leaves?
That's a great question.
You compost them or?
So there's a couple different avenues for the leaves. The main thing we do with them is we shred them or grind them into leaf mulch, which is not quite compost unless you let it sit for a while. And that's available for free to our residents. So you could come to our I-66 transfer station or I-95 landfill, and we have hoppers that basically you push a button and it will load a trailer or a pickup truck with that material. You can also hand load in some cases if you want a smaller amount, but that material is available for our residents free of charge. And that can go back to your yard for like a compost type application. It's not quite compost though. Um, the other avenue is if we have too many leaves and we don't have the space, it may go to a compost facility or to a company that will process it again for reuse. So it's used. It's not a lost material. So that, with this program, it does get recycled.
And do you have any idea how long, if I leave some in the back of my yard, how long it will take to decompose by itself?
That's a great question. What I would suggest is looking into backyard composting. We have a lot of information online. We also have folks that are focused on helping people with backyard composting. So if you wanted to take some of your leaves and maybe potentially some of your food scraps, not with bones, but like your onion peels or banana peels, orange rinds, those types of things, you could take those out and you can make a pretty good mix. That would decompose with some of your grass clippings. And then you could have a nice fertile soil depending on the space in your yard, right? But we have information online for backyard composting. Katie, I'll hand it to you. Do you have any other information to share?
I think, in general, we recommend that if you've got a lot of leaves and you have grass, you can always mulch them with your mower. If you've got the right type of mower, you can get a retrofit to do that. And then if you've got wooded areas that are more naturalized, you can just leave your leaves there, similar to like a wood setting. And in fact, it's a great habitat for pollinators and lightning bugs and things to overwinter there. And then usually by the spring, they're starting to break down.
And I would imagine the snow would help with that, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, exactly.
All right.
Mhm.
Perfect. Thank you for your services.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe we are at George Waters. You should be able to unmute yourself. George, I'll leave you unmuted or with the ability to unmute. And Matt Mullen, you should be able to unmute yourself. There you go.
Thank you, Katie. First off, thank you very much to the team for putting this together. This is really thorough. It really feels like you guys have thought through the season last year and identified some opportunities for advancement, and I really appreciate it. So we're in the Mantua neighborhood, Zone M, Zone 10. And one thing that we heard is that some residents would put leaves out when they heard the leaf trucks were actually in the neighborhood, rather than the posted date. And afterwards, they would report that trucks missed them. We were told that one possible explanation for why trucks may have missed their home is that spotters were sent ahead of leaf trucks to identify streets that needed service. So if neighbors waited until the leaf trucks were actually in the neighborhood to move their leaves out to the street, they might not get service. Could you talk a little bit about how might your new quality control procedures help with that? Or could you just talk about your QC a little bit more?
Sure. And Matt, welcome. It's been a season since we haven't talked to you, so I'm glad to hear you.
It's nice
So-
to see you guys too.
So actually, we're in the middle of negotiations with an outside firm or third party that does this for solid waste programs across the U.S. That they're one of our vendors that we use to help us with things like QA/QC inspections, things like that. So we're formulating a plan with them um, to do a third party QA/QC approach where we'll be doing pre-photographs, so right before we come in with the trucks, but it'll be in line with our trucks being there. So it should um, prevent that issue that you were mentioning with that look ahead where someone might have looked down the street and there was no leaves and then we didn't send a truck down there. We're going to send a truck there. We're going to send that QC person there. So that should alleviate that concern. But it's a new thing. So, bear with us as we grow a little bit into it. But my expectations from the team and hiring a third party to help us with that QA/QC is to really make sure we get a good product that'll inform not only how we provide the service this year, but how do we provide the service going forward, right? We're going to utilize this company not just for photographs and things like that, but to make sure we're doing it in an efficient way so that we can really make sure the service is top notch for all of y'all, including the customers in Mantua.
That's incredible. Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate the thought you put into this.
Yes, sir. No problem.
This is George Waters. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Took me a minute to figure it out, but thank you. Couple of comments and questions. First of all, I think the Pine Ridge Park concept that you guys are doing makes a lot of sense. I just can't imagine how long it would take a truck to get to the 2 transfer stations now, so that should be a big improvement. So kudos for coming up with that one. In the past, the big issue really has been keeping on schedule. I think last year, at least in my neighborhood, you were almost a month late getting started. If that were to continue to happen, there'd be no reason whatsoever to do a third pickup. In January, it just doesn't look good for the trucks to be going down the street, and there's no leaves to pick up. It doesn't help you guys PR wise. I guess would be one way to think about it. And maybe you could save money. I've also observed over the years that when the county did this in-house with county employees, they seem to have a better system. And in the last few years, as you've moved more toward contracting it out to private contractors, we ran into some scheduling issues. Do you have a comment on that?
Absolutely. And George, thank you for that question. So our resources are limited. If you recall, we had a lot of challenges in the solid waste industry for truck drivers, and not just in solid waste, but in any CDL type of job that was not glamorous. And so there was a lot of reasons from the mail delivery services that have ramped up their ability to hire and compete for these jobs for the people that actually do the driving. So anyway, so our services have to be provided for trash recycling and yard waste. And so we made a conscious decision for those regulatory driven required services so that we maintain the health and safety in the neighborhoods from garbage collection. We kept our employees focused on that effort, and we decided to contract out the service. Now our hiring has approved. We are now hiring folks, so it's really exciting actually. Our service level for trash yard waste collection. Now there are misses like the bus instance that we heard from earlier. That could happen, but we are staffing up and we're able to attract great employees that are driving for us again. So that's why you heard in the presentation 5 automated trucks. So we're dedicating 5 drivers, which is something we could not do the last couple of years. And now we're at the point in the stage that we're able to do that. So George, I hope that answers your question or my commentary provides some comfort that we won't go completely back to an employee, a county ran program, which ultimately wasn't really always county because we always would do temporary vacuum leaf employees that did the groundwork, the labor part of it, but we'd put our drivers there. So we still even then had contractors, but now it's really those truck drivers that were having the brunt of the truck driving contract going. But we are adding county resources to that this year as well, along with the additional supervision.
Good. Well, I'm glad to see you're hiring people because again, my observation is that the in-house folks did a much better job than the contractors did. And I think you only need to analyze that, do an analogy to that to trash pickup, where 90% of the county gets private pickup, and we're the lucky ones in the 10% that have county pickup. And supervisors tell me the biggest complaints they get all year are from the private haulers. So I know that's an entirely different subject than we're discussing here tonight, but
Yes, sir.
I'm delighted to not be in a situation with the 90% who have private haulers because they don't do a very good job. How many years are you guys anticipating this will last? Now is my next question. The vacuum leaf pickup, there was a proposal to end it. I was part of the group that met with your boss out of the government center last year, and he seemed quite open-minded and supportive of what we were arguing for. Are we looking at 3 to 5 years, or what are we looking at before you guys make a run at ending this again?
So, George, I'll say it this way. We are investing in the program. We are growing our ability and capabilities. The program is going to stay. And there's not a plan for 3 or 5 years of ending the program.
Cool.
Now, we do serve at the behest of the board, essentially. So if they made a decision or determination to change what we are offering in terms of a program, that could obviously impact what services we provide as county employees, but there's no plans, George.
Right.
So we're actually ramping up our operation, and that's why I said earlier, we want to make this a good service for all of y'all. So there's something that, just like your trash service, you're proud of and proud that you have. And so optimistically, this year will be a success, and you can call me back and tell me it was good or bad, and we'll work through it again next year. But our goal is we put a lot of effort and time in the planning this year and learning from other programs so we can be successful. So that's our goal, and we're going to be around to do it going forward.
That's really a wonderful answer. I'm very glad to hear that. Just wanted to segue to a question if the brewers were on earlier and asked about ending the service for them, and it sounded like they didn't understand the system, how it works, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but it has to be an entire sanitary district that has to opt out of the program by a majority vote of the people in that sanitary district, not an individual person within the district. Is that still the system?
So it's different than that. It's not the entirety of the system. So we've allow for basically our operations team will determine the quantity of properties. It has to make sense for the operation. And so, George, I think it is what you're saying in a sense, but it is not a hard, fast rule that it's the entire sanitary district. A lot of these petitions that we're seeing are for smaller areas. And we just had some, actually, that'll be going to public hearing in a couple weeks as admin items that were approved for a public hearing on Tuesday with the board for decreation. And there's good reason for those. One was they were redeveloped lots that don't have trees. And so they weren't really needing to have the service and they weren't producing any leaves to be set out. So that's an example, and we're trying to make it so that both sides of the coin, for people that want the service, then they can be in the service, and then the people that don't want the service, there's a path forward for them to stop participating in the program.
Now, last year, you guys seemed to be oriented toward helping people who wanted to end the sanitary service district that they were in for vacuum leaf collection, but you were not doing it on the other side of the coin, which was responding to areas that did not have the service but would like to have getting it in the future by creating a district. Are you saying now that if a sanitary district petitions for new vacuum leaf collection, that you will work with them to let them obtain it?
So it's actually a legal process that if the community wanted to petition, they could, and they meet the threshold that the board will then be required to have a public hearing. Now, as staff, we might say we don't want to expand the program, and we can make that recommendation, but it would be the board that would make the ultimate determination on whether that sanitary district was created for refuse or for leaf. They're both sanitary districts.
But are you presently, if you were asked by the board, are you lobbying against internally with communicating to the board, are you lobbying them against the creation of new leaf collection districts?
We really haven't had that come up yet, and I don't think I have a position on it in this call. I think it'd be situational in terms of the operation and what that would cause, either in terms of an improvement for that area. I don't think we're looking to expand this across the whole county. Given our service challenges that we've had, to be honest, we want to make sure we're providing our customers that we have today with good service. So we would want to consider like the proximity to where we're collecting. There's a lot of factors there, George. So.
Right.
I don't
Right,
don't
yeah.
really have an affirmative or not on that one.
Yeah, sure. I can see some area that's nowhere close to an existing sanitary district petitioning and that causing you guys a lot of headaches. But any that's, next door to one that exists now, I would hope that you'd keep an open mind. I think my final question is, there was a very large tax increase for this program last year. I forgot what the increase, it was proposed to be a big increase again this year, and I think you guys decided against it. Can you refresh our memories as to what the tax situation is now?
Yes, so it is 0.019 per $100 of assessed value, and that is constant. We are not going to make a recommendation to increase the tax rate. So it'll be the same programmatic cost based on the house value of that 0.019 per $100 of assessed value going forward.
Okay, thanks very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your questions.
Carol Powell, you should have the ability to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, good evening.
Good. Hey, thank you. I also wanted to say that I love my leaf pickup, and I was petrified when it was sounding like it was maybe going to go away. So I'm thrilled about it. This was not my original, but the signs that you put on the neighborhood, I don't know whether it's me getting older, but I feel like a lot of the writing on them, the dates, has not been very big, bold, and clear. And I'm actually in favor of having just the date on the sign rather than the QR code. But it does need to be readable as you're driving past. But I also like the QR code in the website to get them more up to date, but not everybody in the neighborhood is like all on using QR codes even, for example. So I think it kind of expands the opportunity. But my real comment or question was also about the third pickup. And we've been in the house now for 40 years. So there's been a lot of change in the weather. I mean, I can remember when, the kids were little and they were out trick-or-treating and, on Halloween, and most of the leaves were down, big piles. And it seems to me, with the exception of these past couple of years, it has been, when the leaves come down, I feel like has been happening later than it used to when we first moved in. So I have always wondered, and also I have been, hearing so much more talk about, yes, it's good to leave some of the leaves on the gardens and things like that. And again, in 40 years, we had to have a couple of trees in the backyard removed. So now, for example, I have few enough leaves in my backyard that I can just actually mow those. And I do put those on the compost, but the rest of the yard actually still has a lot, and it's way more than I can leave. I would actually really love to have the 2 in the fall if we can do that, because I agree if you can get them picked up before the end of December, that's really good. But I don't mind leaving some over the winter, and I'd love to have like the third pickup actually be maybe in March, so that I could then do a final cleanup of the beds before, spring, and you start thinking about putting mulch down and stuff like that. So that's just my sort of comment on the thing. And I don't know because I heard a couple of people say that they don't use the third one at all, but I'd actually like not in the winter, but like an early spring one. March or early April or something. So I don't know if that's been considered and if anybody else would find that of use, but thank you.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. Well, and I'm glad you're excited. We're excited to provide the service for you this year and going forward. I love that you do the backyard mowing, mulching, and then composting. That's fantastic. Um, and thank you for the thought on a later vacuum leaf collection offering. Honestly, we haven't considered that late in the season, and hopefully, probably because we
Yeah.
never wanted to be that late on collection. But I do appreciate the thought. And yeah, something we'll talk about. I'm not sure we'll be able to do it, but I like the way
Great.
you're thinking
Okay.
about it.
Thank you.
Okay, I see Lisa Shankman's the only one that I think has their hand up now. Lisa, you should be able to unmute. Well, Richard, I've unmuted you. And Lisa, if you are able to unmute, you can join in right after Richard.
Richard here. Should I wait?
Go ahead, and we'll keep Lisa's mic off.
I just wanted to mirror what a lot of people have said is the leaf service is like, I've been here for 30 years and it is something we expect and love. And I hope you never think about getting rid of it, because I'll tell you, not only do you pick up the leaves, but it's the only time our streets get cleaned. And Mason is more of an urban area than, say, some of the areas more in the western part of the county. So, I, I'm just a strong proponent of keeping it, and I know you've had your challenges, but I want to thank you for the work you do, and hope that you will keep doing it.
Thank you,
That's all I
Richard.
wanted to say.
I appreciate it. We're going to work hard to make it a better service for you this year, and yeah, it'll be part of our planning going forward as well. All right, Lisa, were you able to find that mic, little mic toggle on and off there on the top of your Teams page? I'm sure you could always send us a message too, or check out our website and put in the information there in our it's basically report a problem page, solid waste feedback form. Okay. Okay. Well, Lisa, if you would just reach out that way, it seems like we're not able. Oh, we have another question, so we'll wait. Whitney.
Hi. Yeah, hi. Just a quickie. Can't help while I'm cooking, putting my master naturalist hat on, and just assure, when I'm in favor of, okay, sure, we keep the leaf collection. I get it too. Some of the people in my neighborhood, my other hat is a civic association leader, loves that. Some of my neighbors are like, don't like that because we're all, living so close to the woods, and we are moved to here because of the woods. We're in small neighborhood in Mason District, 1950s shoebox houses, and the outdoors is our front lawn, if you will. So my point in talking is to just reassure people that you can have a pretty deep layer of leaves on your lawn. And if you are a lawn lover, then maybe a corner of your lawn, just think about that, because even when you use the mower to mulch it, you can accidentally kill all the little bugs that are using it for overwintering. And if you love birds and you want to help the migrating birds, and you want to, enjoy your birds and your bird feeder and all of that stuff, and you like lightning bugs, I mean, that is the beginning of the food chain. So there is always a trade-off in nature. So, if maybe you can make peace with the idea of having a corner of your lawn or a corner of your yard dedicated to just letting it go, and all will be well. Your lawn won't totally die, I promise. Thanks.
Well said, Whitney. I'll give you a heart emoji for that one. We live in the woods, and my wife and I struggle because we have grass in the front, but we also have a treed, wooded part of the front yard that goes up to where our street intersects the front. And we have lots of lightning bugs, and I have a little guy that goes out there and we have lots of fun finding all kinds of cool critters. So yeah, well said. I like it. My wife, I think, wants more grass, but we have enough in the yard for her, so you can have that compromise and still have the nature part. So thank you. All right, Lisa, were you able to find that mic
you.
button? Okay. All right. Well, I think with that, Lisa, please just send us a note so that you can get your comment to us, and hopefully we can address it offline. We'll go ahead and I guess wrap this evening's presentation. Thank you all for joining us. Hopefully it was informative. We look forward to servicing you this year. Please reach out if you have questions, and stay tuned. Be on the lookout for that brochure in October, and check our website frequently during the season for updates, and next door if you are on that platform. Well, thank you all. Thank you, Katie, for hosting us tonight. I appreciate it. And Chris and everybody else on the team for joining. Y'all have a great evening.
Have a good evening. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.